5 mindset shifts that will change your life. The number 5 is probably the biggest. So number 1, somebody else can always do it better. Speed and results are what matter. And we are back with another episode of the Julius Files. I am your host, Jasan Julius, and let's say today is a water cooler talk based around, let's just say, mindset shifts, entrepreneurial mindset shifts, but mindset shifts that I think serve everybody in general. If you actually want a happier, more productive, peaceful life, I'm again big believer. Change your perspective, change your life. And ideally, let your perspective be changed and your life will change. All right, so let's get into it. So 5 mindset shifts that will change your life. And I do want to clarify that the number 5 is probably the biggest. So number 1, somebody else can always do it better. Speed and results are what matter. Number 2, there is no right way. Testing, iterating, and measuring is how you actually develop. Number 3, best practices work until they don't. Change is inevitable. Number 4, you are only competing with yourself. And number 5, real learning starts after you think you're done with school. Okay, so let's unpack that. I mean, because number 1 is, you can read that many different ways, whether we're talking about personal or entrepreneurial, but somebody else can always do it better. When you're coming from an entrepreneurial mindset, the simple fact is, to be the entrepreneur, you're juggling a lot of balls. And inevitably, when you're developing something and you're passionate about it because you're getting in business, your first instinct is that you do it well, and you're always afraid of hiring because nobody is going to do it better than you, and you're going to waste time trying to select the right candidate and onboard them, only to either be disappointed in their results or the hire isn't going to work out. So you just get stuck in that place where you think nobody else can do it better than me, so I might as well just do it and do this and do this and do this. And that is not the proper entrepreneurial mindset, and it's definitely not how you actually scale a business and achieve any level of freedom. So when I say somebody else can always do it better, like I said, speed and results do matter, but the bigger thing is that when you're juggling all of these balls, the point is somebody else can be hired to solely focus on one piece, and they're going to be more productive than you are because you are paying them to focus on that one piece. And I've read several books, and they teeter between basically telling you, when you hire somebody, no, they're not going to do it as well as you. They're going to do it 70 to 80% as well as you. And some will make the argument, okay, hire 2 people to do it and you'll get 140 to 160% of yourself. But that's not the point. As an entrepreneur, you have to focus on so many different things that if you're going to scale, you need to be writing systems, processes, and procedures, but you need to be continually hiring so that one person can focus on one thing. Because when you start out, you're focusing on 10 things. What you need to be doing is figuring out, how can I hire 5 people so that they can each focus on doing one of these 10 things really well. And then you get down to where you're only focusing on the 5 things that are either the most important or most productive or most revenue generating, or the things that like really feed your passion and keep you in the game. So what I'm getting at is that the name of the game is buying your time back. And that is how you scale. It is hiring employees so that they can singularly focus on pieces so that you can move on to actually putting your time devoted towards more important, more productive pieces in general. And yeah, it's much like baseball, and I'm not a sports enthusiast, but you're going to find out when you're hiring, it's like, man, if you're batting 500, like you're doing really good. You're going to have bad hires. You're going to have misfires. You're going to make mistakes in the hiring process. You're going to make mistakes spelling out or trying to show your vision, because inevitably when you're hiring, Your vision needs to be so big that whatever that individual's vision is of their life, that they can see how their vision fits inside of your vision. And that's why one of the reasons why they will say entrepreneurs should really dream big, because that big dream has to be so big that everybody's little dreams are capable of fitting into it, and they see how they play a part. Because I really think that by and large, everybody wants to be a part of something bigger than them. So they have their little dream and vision. And as an entrepreneur, if you dream big, it makes room for everybody's dreams to fit inside of it. And then you're developing a team and you're developing a culture, and everybody gets really good at staying in their lane and focusing on their piece. And as an entrepreneur, you start to shift into being a coach, a director, an orchestrator, and thereby you not only get freedom, but you're able to focus on the pieces that you really enjoy focusing on. Okay, so number 2, there is no right way. The simple fact is, like, the horse and buggy was an improvement upon the horse itself. The buggy they made with wooden wheels until the automobile came along and replaced the horse and buggy, and the metal wheels didn't dent, didn't break. And the point that I'm trying to get at is there's always a snapshot in time as to what the right way is until somebody comes along and finds a better way. So don't focus on what the right way is. Intelligence is IQ, but wisdom is gained through actually learning. And learning is generally done through testing and iterating, and generally you learn most things through pain, which means you develop more wisdom through actually testing, learning, and what most people see as failing, because you're actually learning and developing and growing. You are trying new things to find a new right way that actually is another iteration that allows you to do better than the competition inside of your industry. So don't look at somebody and say, oh, well, they're doing it the right way, and then try and copy that. Their right way might be the right way right now, but somebody is always out there testing and iterating and developing, and then most importantly, actually measuring to find the new right way. Number 3, and I mean, it parlays a lot into number 2, best practices work until they don't. Change is inevitable. Embrace change and always approach a situation ready to learn. I am like, when I worked at Chrysler, one of my biggest frustrations was that the bean counters would set up front and they would look at this screen and they would develop a process or system, and on paper it looked really good. They never bothered to actually come out to the floor and see how it was actually functionally implemented, because at the floor level is where you actually find those best practices. I'm just saying, when you find a best practice, you should probably implement it into your system. But the point of systems development is always iteration. It's like when you're developing systems for a business, it is a constant tearing down and rebuilding, because you go to the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You go to the bottleneck. Okay, if you have already written all of your systems in the business and then you find a bottleneck, you're going to, in that bottleneck, in that system is at the moment a best practice, but your job is to open up that bottleneck, which means you're going to tear apart that system and you're going to rebuild it and you're going to find new best practices. So don't get stuck in your ways. Realize best practices are always changing and they work until they don't. Number 4, you are only competing with yourself. In business, man, I'm telling you, like, there is no 9 innings. Like, winning in business is being able to get up every day and still being able to continue to play the game. And in small business, I know everybody thinks that they're going to build a business and they're going to sell it and they're going to cash out and they're going to ride off into the sunset. Okay. One, I'm not overly a proponent of that, because I'm sitting there going, when you ride off into the sunset, because I have thought about this many times, I think about, well, what would I do? Well, I would plant myself on a beach. As my sister has told me, and I have to fully agree with her, if you planted me on a beach within 30 days, I would be driven nuts. I would be ready to get back in the game, because after about 30 days, when you're in business, your brain is just go, 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 go. If all of that ceases and you got 30 days worth of just calm, peace, and quiet, do you really think that you would want that for another 30 days, much less another 3 years or 30 years? Like, it's not realistic. And as for small business, I'm not saying that people cannot get to a payday. I'm just saying it's so rare that in business, it is about doing the proper things and building a business that always wakes up the next day and you're still winning, you're still competing, you're still thriving. Winning in business is about being able to actually be in business and play the game itself. Number 5, and this was again, I do not live in regret, but I'm really big on reflection. I think that that the smartest thing somebody can do is dream and then do and then reflect. And part of all of that has to be constant learning. And when I say real learning starts when you think school is done, it's because school just does not really give you the necessary tools to win in life or actually compete in business. When you get out of school and then you throw yourself out there into the ring, that's when the real learning starts. But that's also a time where every time that you come up on a problem, that's an opportunity to go to the specialists that are in the industry that have either written a book or they've got a YouTube channel. You should always live a learning life. Not only will you become smarter, you'll become wiser, because as you're learning and you are implementing through action, you're going to be failing and you're going to be developing wisdom. But the point is, you should never stop learning. Fall in love with the work, because part of the work is learning itself. And at the end of the day, if you are on an entrepreneurial journey, you have already, like the old saying, ignorance is bliss. If you have put yourself on an entrepreneurial journey, you have already come out of ignorance. So that ship sailed. This is now on to awareness. And it's the point of, if you're going to be aware, then you're going to realize just how much more learning there is to do and fall in love with it. Self-directed learning, becoming an autodidact is something to be proud of. Always being willing to learn, always being willing to find the lesson in the failure. And generally, I'm not saying that there aren't lessons to be had in the successes, but I'm sitting there going, I'm realizing I did not celebrate enough of my successes and wins, but they were a success and a win in the moment. And they were, when it comes to lessons, if there was a lesson to be learned, it was a lot less timeless than the lessons that is learned out of the pain of failure. And again, you should always be willing to learn and grow. And it is something that, like I said, I'm reflecting. I don't have much regret, because at 48, I still got a lot of years ahead of me. But I do wish that I had truly grasped the importance of continued education. And once you're past school, it's an opportunity for you to direct that education and learning towards things that you're either legitimately interested in or things that you know will have a legitimate impact today on your business. So always be learning and growing. They say that if you're the smartest person in the room, that you're in the wrong room. And I'm like, sometimes you're going to find yourself in that room. Ideally, if you're the smartest person in the room, you should be looking for a way to teach and disseminate information and help other people grow. Never know. If you're going to be that person, ideally, you make your way to a stage and you get paid to impart that information. But the simple fact is, always learning and getting into new rooms where you're learning from others and teaching others. And it is a very good cycle of life. I just cannot encourage it enough. And the one of the biggest mistakes that I see is that people think they get through high school or they get through college and they're done learning. And I'm like, not even close. Life is a learning journey. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. That's my pod. Please, I don't know, questions, comments, snide remarks, please feel free to leave them in the channel. If you know somebody that needs to hear this, please share the show. And until next time, you guys have a good night.